Because if you're relying on your subjective impulses to answer the questions for you, you're going to come up with the wrong fucking answers. That's just the simple truth. It's hard work being fair. It's hard work being logically disciplined, because it goes against your nature. And it's this, you know, to me, it's the first step of us acquiring a truly civilized, you know, human existence, is to realize the importance of making this separation, of realizing what we are and how we have to create an environment where we can live with each other, because it's not going to come naturally, because we are naturally competitive. We are, look, I can go through the whole thing. You know the list. I mean, you know the prejudices that exist inside of you. You know they exist. You know you have an attachment to the things that are familiar to you, familiar to your culture. And you intellectually realize that people in some other culture that seem bizarre and strange to you have just as legitimate attachments to their bullshit as you have to your bullshit, and that it is completely arbitrary, and that we can shift that, we can control that, we can moderate that by having a civilization that allows people not to be conditioned by those things, but to choose what kind of person or human being they're going to be raised in an atmosphere that is not controlling but is liberating, that is where intelligence matters, and where intelligence is the force that we try our best to be conditioned by intelligence and not some sort of circumstantial event, you know, that this bullshit that happens to us individually. That's not where our awareness and our understanding should come from. It should come from some more pure, more detached, more intellectual source. So yeah, I understand Matt's argument perfectly well. It's impossible to miss his argument. He's made it quite explicit, quite clear. He wishes to pollute science with spiritualism, with wishful thinking, with hopeful nonsense, okay, because he doesn't like the rational scientific conclusion, all right, that there's just as good a probability that this life thing is nonsense as there is it means something. There's just as good a probability that nature created inefficiently and unproductively as it would to produce something productive. They're even less likely, when you consider the true odds. It seems pretty unlikely that crude forces would you know, create a proper balance of suffering to pleasure. So when we start analyzing this thing called life, and we start to try to figure out what it really means and what it really is worth, we can't go by our subjective passions. We can't make the determination by saying, well, how addicted to it am I? All right, that's really dumb. All right, I've made the point. You don't ask a heroin addict to give you an objective, fair, rational description of the value of heroin. That would be insane. That would be stupid. All right, that would be anti-intelligent. And that's the goddamn point of these videos I've made ridiculing what he's talking about, because it is jargon, it is bullshit, and then that's the only way he contrives this is the only way he makes it possible to put this square peg of bullshit into the round hole, is by talking past it and over it so hard and so much with so much jargon that people are so confused and distracted by the jargon they don't even realize what he's fucking doing is bastardizing and destroying any kind of logical meaning. And because there is no logical excuse to take the fantasy fairy tale hopeful addicted personality of the human beast and shove that into intelligence is just that. It is stupid. It is idiotic. There's no rational reason to do that. There's no logical reason to do that. To certainly understand that human beings live on a subjective level and that they need feeding, that the human personality does need beauty, it does need actualization, it does need fulfillment. Doesn't that is the intellectual conclusion, yes, but you do not incorporate that into the judgment. The judgment makes a determination about how to feed it efficiently, how to give it what it needs without it costing too much, without there being all this unnecessary suffering attached to it, without there being unsustainable systems. And we're not going to have sustainable systems till we realize we have to design those systems intelligently. We cannot design them with some phantasmagorical notion of happily ever after or any of this other nonsense.